Welcome to TheatreCast. You've reached episode number 83, being recorded February 21st, 2016. This is a show where theater teachers and professionals share their passion for theater trends, share practical advice and tips, and ask questions of some of theater's most innovative collaborators. I'm Nick Cusumano, your co-host, and joining me for the second anniversary of TheatreCast is Miss Danielle Filas.
Hello, everybody. Happy anniversary to us.
And I'm going to let Danielle introduce our wonderful guest today.
I'm super excited to introduce Tara DeFrancisco, who is the captain of all things improv. She's a headlining performer at I.O. Chicago. She's performed at Comedy Sports Chicago, the Second City, which you might have heard of. She's literally performed improv all around the world. Apparently doesn't sleep because, am I right, Tara? Right now you're founder and president of the Improv Retreat, which is like coming up fast.
Yep.
And you're creating a brand new theater, improv-based theater in a whole other city.
Yep.
Yeah.
You got all that right.
So
I don't sleep. I'm very sick. I'm very unhealthy.
Help me.
This is a cry for help. This interview is just a cry for help.
Well, we are glad that you're burning the candle at both ends, and we're glad that you've taken a little time out of your so busy schedule to come talk with us today. So welcome to TheatreCast.
My pleasure. Hi, everyone.
So we've got a lot of teachers who listen to this show, and I know that you do a lot of teaching. In fact, you came here to Columbus, and you've done some teaching pretty much everywhere. Can you talk a little bit about your teaching and how you approach that?
You bet. I teach primarily improvisation more than anything, and I've been teaching for around, I bet, probably 10 years professionally, I guess, but been performing improv for about 15. And typically my approach to improvisational teaching is definitely clinical in some approaches to comedic theory, but certainly more bohemian than maybe the average Joe. I think a lot of people get drawn to improv because it's about presence work. It's about being present in the moment, and that's why a lot of people that get drawn to improv initially for the funniness stay for the life work. It sort of also preaches in its methodology. So a lot of that's part of the curriculum even in improv training.
Do you find that most of the students who take your classes or sign up to work with you are looking to break onto the big stage, or do you find that it's more that, as you put it, that bohemian sort of need for a crew?
Yeah, a crew, a squad, right? It's both. You know, it seems like in Chicago, or the bigger markets, I should probably say, one of the big three places to study, often there is a driving force of people that want to either use improvisation as a performance skill, or they want to use it as a way of cultivating material. So like if they want to be a writer for like a sitcom or a pilot or a late show, they often use improvisation as a technique to get them to material. Or honestly just work with people in a better way. But I think often in some Chicago markets and in some smaller markets that are just smaller than Chicago but not necessarily small, they do it just to be good at improv itself. Improv as an art form is super trendy right now, and it's certainly in its heyday, I think. At least its heyday as it stands. Hopefully there's even more heyday to come, but it's the most popular it's ever been as a performance tool. And a lot of people study improvisation because they want to be good specifically at just being a good improviser. And a lot of that, again, like the tenets of the art form rub off on people, and it carries over into their regular life. It almost mimics a spirituality of sorts, or some kind of humanistic kind of methodology, I guess. And that's why people really love it. It really rolls over into kindness and goodness everywhere. Working together with other humans is very charming once you give into it, I think.
I always tell my students, I'm a high school teacher and middle school teacher, and I tell my students when we use improv in the classroom a lot.
Cool.
And I tell them that this is the secret to dating well.
Oh man!
If you remember these improv tenets, you'll never have like the awkward.
Yeah, there's no one. That's probably right, because you can basically keep talking at all given points with another human being.
And find commonality.
Find commonality, embrace weirdness. That's a block of first dates to begin with anyway. Yeah, it's just about everything is a gift. Everything is a gift that happens to you, so looking for opportunities on how to connect with another person. It's great for high schoolers. That's wonderful. Not that that's not a tough time already.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk more about what you mean by that everything coming at you is a gift? And you can talk about it in improv specific, but feel free to branch out into
You bet. Yeah, I think that I teach both kinds of there's lots of kinds of improv, long form, short form, and now even medium form, which is sort of a blend of both things. Short form being game-based improv, kind of like Whose Line. Long form being something that's usually source material that spans into a larger show, and medium form splitting the difference of those. A lot of the everything is a gift idea tends to apply to everything, but is certainly really evident in long form when you're doing like a 30-minute to an hour-long show. It's inevitable that your teammates will stumble, that you will stumble, that you'll you'll make mistakes. And the good part about improv is there's no mistakes, really, that you can embrace everything. And if you replicate it, or you use it as a pattern, or you look for a deeper meaning of why the mistake was made, it's an opportunity rather than you can't really mess up a line because it didn't exist prior to its discovery a minute ago. So if you can keep rolling through it and figure out why it matters rather than whoops, it'll be a gateway to something more special or meaningful.
Or to that that fear that we all have of saying the wrong thing, and that fear of saying the wrong thing keeps us all quiet.
Yeah, I mean, there's already so much performance anxiety in the world anyway, and I mean, just for the average person, not even people that want to be performers, but you have to speak at work, or you have to get up in front of a bunch of classmates, or you have to give a presentation or some kind of pitch, and people really lock up at that because they're always they sort of think that the audience wants them to fail, rather than believing that the audience probably wants them to do well so that the thing is over quicker. In real life, like, that's what really happens. It's like the best anxiety reducer of all time, just to remember that everyone in your corporate job wants you to do well so the meeting can stop. They don't want you to fail because that means a longer meeting. So that's a really good thing. And if you do trip up on something that was pre-planned and you're holding tight to agenda of what you have to get said, rather than looking for opportunities of where you can be present with people that you're doing those things with or in front of, you're probably not doing as cool of a thing as you could. Like, you could be more present. That mistakes is a gift thing is such a wonderful improv tenet that I think really rolls over into regular life.
And as a teacher, and I'm sure Nick can attest to this too, right now our students are in such the opposite world of that in so many ways, with high-stakes testing where you have to answer A, B, C, D, or E, and if you don't get that right answer, it's a huge burden and punishment that comes at you. So we're surprised that our kids are afraid to talk and are afraid to. And yet, on the flip side of it, we're in a world that's increasingly global and increasingly networked, and where discussion and problem solving is more and more important. So it seems like more schools ought to be bringing. I think maybe that's why the heyday is happening that you're talking about.
Maybe. That's really interesting. I've never thought about that before. I mean, when you think about standardized testing or something being very clinical in nature of how we answer a question, in scholastic settings at least, or like, here's how we get a certain score, or we're taught to test, or whatever it may be. And then you get out into the real world and it's all about open workspaces and everyone collaborating on ideas. It doesn't, and I'm sure there's probably a job that falls outside these parameters, but for the most part, that's where corporate America is going. that we are all kind of like doing group work or like pitching together or that sort of thing. It probably feels pretty alien for people when they step out of college to realize that everyone is working in a pod rather than like at their desk in a like, very clinical nature. That's totally right. And that's why, high schoolers, middle schoolers are very, very interested in a collaborative human experience because it mirrors what they see when they're not at school.
I bet you're right. And
yeah, I never thought about that. That's interesting.
We just figured it out, everyone.
Well, this is done.
And that's why I think theater helps prepare our students for the real world and improv and all those type of things, because that's where it's moving. It's nothing new for us, but it's new for the rest of the world, and we're old hat at it.
That's right.
We've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
Since Danielle had mentioned so when you get a group together and they're beginning improvers, what do you do maybe in their first class? What things do you what's a little bit of your groundwork that you do with them so that they have an understanding of what's going to happen?
That's a great question. I think unilaterally at every school that I've ever taught at, of the three that you mentioned, and in private teaching, I'm fairly certain that I'm probably known for being like a real I really like to bond people quickly so that they know a little bit about each other, the background, why they came to class, why they're trying to attempt this work, so that everyone has context and they know that not everyone wants to be a professional performer, or that not everyone, has had 40 years of life experience. Like maybe someone's 21 and maybe someone's 54. They're going to have different things to share, and that we should be open, that we can learn from each other as much as the material or curriculum that's given. And I've noticed and have had students thank me currently and in the past for, if we have a safe environment from day one together, then we're probably going to be able to make bigger leaps as artists and move forward knowing that failures are only about the work and not about the human. That's a really important thing for me. That if someone messes up in class, we can all laugh and it'll be no big deal because it's not a judgment of character. It's only an opportunity to learn a mechanic, I think that is way less scary for most people. It's strange because we do, theater too, not just improv, but improvisation and theater and all of it. It's all very personal, and art is very personal. Even if it's comedic art where it's lighthearted, it's still personal because it feels like when you get a note, it's about you. Because especially in improv, there's no props, there's no costume. It's like you being a person. So when people receive notes, they get really nervous. They feel like it's a comment on their comedy or their personality or their opinions, and in a way it sort of is. So you have to be cautious that the person feels good about bringing themselves to the table, so that when we have some kind of diagnostic note to give, it's not a disruption of like the way we feel about each other. So that happens on day one. I really think that it grows over the next amount of time, but I've certainly noticed if I've had to have been absent for a first day of class, let's say, and then I have a class for 7 more weeks, the next week is me repairing, like let's all kind of come together and kumbaya a little bit, because if we don't believe that stuff, like it'll be hard to undo the rest.
And to just see the humanness.
Yes,
there.
Totally.
So, and the response I got from everybody who went to your workshop was same word over and over, was warmth, which I think is a really nice comment.
Oh.
Yeah. Warmth.
Kind.
That's good.
It's very kind. It's good. It's important. I mean, especially on that's funny that they've heard that. I think that we're very. It depends on when you get us along the road. I'm sure that warmth is a good descriptor of me, because I'm a little improv puppy. And I like everyone to feel good.
I would like that just on loop.
Improv. Bye, guys.
I'm a little improv.
You can vine that later. But it's true. Like I really am that person. But I I think that as we get better at improv, every teacher that's warm is also known for being like way harsher. I always tell my classes that I'll start very warm with you, and then I'm going to make you know that I like you enough that I can start being mean to you. And then we'll get to that criticism point where we're all laughing about the mistakes we make. My improv classes have kind of started calling me half puppy dog, half Bobby Knight, where I've been like, "What are you doing?" I've been known to throw a chair in a class. I mean, it's like interesting, you know, because if we're criticizing their work and we can say like, what was that? Everyone will start to be like, yeah, okay. Like, but they'll laugh, and it's all about the atmosphere of the class. If we make big mistakes, it's important to get out of those and to know that there's
the things you remember from a good class are usually those critiques that you go, oh yeah, that's exactly what I haven't been able to put my finger on about myself. And
totally. It's important. You know, I think that there's for being such again improv puppy. From being that, I think it's also very important that people get real notes. And you know, I'm coming from like a Chicago school of thought, so like there's a lot of people here that want very critical, harsh notes because they paid a lot of money and they want to know what's not working.
Right.
So it's almost you have to be careful that you're not too loving and not too critical because you'll annihilate 50% on either side at all given times. So that's why that blend is so important to me of like, I like you a lot, let's talk about what just happened, is a really important culture, I think, for a classroom because otherwise you're just hooray, hooray, and nothing gets done.
Right, exactly. Yeah. If people go, could you talk a little maybe about the Improv Retreat?
Yeah.
And if people go to that, what they might expect, and if you have to be an improv guru aficionado to go, or if I can be newbie in need of puppy love.
Yeah, man, of course. Yeah, if you want to feel like a weekend full of absolute love and bizarreness, this is the weekend for you. It's an adult improv sleepover camp. Which already is a hilarious sentence. It's the third year. It's the third year of the ImprovRetreat.com, and it's an look at this! Google Hangouts is magic. Oh, hi guys! Look at this website. It's a cool, wonderful thing. It started as a complete pipe dream, which is something that I tend to say at camp every year we've done it so far, and it's me and usually 14 or 15 other friends that are world-renowned teachers in improvisation. Some of those people you're seeing right there on that screen. So you know, often it's me and Rance Rizzuto and Joe Bill and Ryan Archibald and Craig Euler and Namdi Ngwe and Sharna came the first year and Susan Messing and all these beautiful Jill Bernard, these beautiful people that come to the woods. And it's about an hour outside of Chicago, not very far actually. It's one of the closest camps to Chicago, and people go to basically a wet, hot American summer campsite. It really looks like that. That's not even. It's like hard to even believe, but it really looks exactly like it. With cabins and lodges, and everyone gets a bunk. Everyone gets food all weekend. You get all admission to all main stage shows. You do jams. You get 4 2-hour classes with instructors that you pick. So you like schedule them over the weekend, and you go and play with all these people that are like-minded individuals. It's basically like a sleepover conference, I guess is the best way to kind of describe it. But we've had a lot of people go there that are improvisers, certainly, because there's these world-renowned instructors that they may never get. So it's great for people that live outside of Chicago specifically because they can go there and take all these Chicago teachers. But we also have teachers from LA, teachers from New York, teachers from Minnesota, teachers from North Carolina, like all over the world that come in. And we've had a really interesting world presence of people that have come to be campers. We have 2 women from Korea coming this year. We've had people from Brazil. We've had lots of people from Canada, lots of people from South America that have come into the camp. It's 250 people over
Wow.
3 days, and now it's four nights now. It's Thursday. Sorry, it's 3 nights. Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, and one night is like devoted to TED-like talks where we talk about methodology of why this stuff works, and then all these classes and games, and there's campfires and s'mores, and it's ridiculous. It's the greatest thing that we can't believe worked. We just can't believe it.
So if people are interested, is there a deadline for registration? Or?
The deadline would probably be around May 1st. It's almost sold out now, so if you want to get on that, go now. We always intend to take 200 campers and often push it a little bit. I think right now we're at 175. So if you want to register, there's a 10% off code right now. For almost cost of what it takes us to run the camp. So that's an important thing to us too. It's very affordable. It's only $265, I think, right now for.
Oh, that's really great.
It's crazy cheap. Yeah, we try to keep it as affordable as possible so that everyone can kind of get there, and that includes food and lodging and all that stuff too. It was really done as sort of a non-for-profit idea. And then we ended up being okay and able to pay everyone that comes in to share their talents with us and all of that. So it's been a real whirlwind, but it's taken off. It's crazy. And now it's the biggest camp for improv in the world, we've heard.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, how fun.
Just as a weird thing that we were like, with this, I don't know if I can do this, but I'm going to try. And it just came together because I know the greatest people in the world, pretty much.
Well, it sounds like a blast. Do you find that people coming from other countries, are there different improv styles?
Oh,
specific
totally.
to regions?
Totally. And there's more of like maybe it's not even, there are style differences because some people like short form better than long, or they like sort of stylized improv where like they're doing what would that be like? Yeah, maybe they like Hitchcock style improv or Shakespearean style. Like there's structured genre improv all over the world, but more is that people are just think certain things are funnier than others. I mean, it just differs per region what is comedically sound to them. And Rance and I see that a lot all over the world, just because we teach so much. It's interesting to go to places, all these different countries, and realize that like there's a lot of things that are found funny everywhere, and there's like slight disconnect in some things that Americans find funny that others don't really. One of them being sarcasm. Sarcasm is not universal.
I know.
So that's an interesting. You should say about that.
Well, that's why I can't teach little kids because they don't. That's
really
my language, and they just cry a lot.
That's funny. That's sad. That's funny that people are crying. Good, Dave. No, it's true. I mean, you go other places, especially abroad, and we've said something sarcastic, and people take it for its original intent. I think is like a thing that happens often. It's very British and American to be sarcastic.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like.
And speaking of your international travel, you've traveled very far with Here, the musical. Can you kind of tell us how that came about, what it is, and where it's taken you?
Where it's taken me. Oh, man, where it's taken me. It's the greatest. I performed it, like all those places you mentioned, Comedy Sports and Second City and I.O. for a number of years. And Rance and I keep pointing because he's in there. Rance Rizzuto and I have been touring this show here, the Improvised Musical. It's just two of us. We do a home show here in Chicago with a musical director, but everything is improvised from minute one. So we get a suggestion for the musical, and we do a big opening number, and then we see what it gets us. There's not really a strict form to it, but it's kind of a two-person improvised Harold-ish sort of thing, where we swirl all the worlds together as quickly as we can, or try to find commonalities between each world as we proceed with the 45-minute to an hour show. But it is just two of us doing that, and because of that, we've had a lot of success with that show. It was one of the or the first two-person musical improvised show. And we got a lot of notoriety for it here in Chicago. The Tribune I think it might be the top-rated show in Chicago right now for certainly for what we are doing, and we have been touring it a lot. We've been touring it in 13 countries and 40 cities, we think, so far, and we just started touring it maybe about a year and a half ago. Yeah, it's the most fun. It's incredible. It's a really fun thing to do, and it's really fun to kind of push the boundaries of what you can do with two people. On the road, I should mention that, on the road, when we go somewhere, we often meet the musician we'll be playing with 15 minutes before the show starts. And you know, mostly it's because people have to like dig someone up in their town to play. Like, there's obviously talented musicians everywhere, but they're not improvising musicians everywhere that aren't like jazz cabaret or something. So we'll give them kind of a quick 5-minute download. Occasionally we'll attempt a song with them just so they can get used to it, but often we don't because it's already like when the audience is coming in, and then we just do a show. So it's like the perfect proof of improv. I'll say that. That when we're doing a show, it's purely improvised because this person's never met us before, you know, half an hour prior. And that's a real challenge, and it's really fun for us because it makes us, you know, we don't know what we're going to do. Right, and that fearlessness. You sure have to practice what you preach to your students. Let's take the leap. So could you tell any stories about any of the countries or spaces that you've been to where it was especially steep, maybe that learning curve, or those sort of moments where it's like all is lost and then it turns out well? On the precipice of danger. Let me think. And then you suddenly find yourself flying. Yeah, you know, we've noticed that it always seems like the people that are sure they're going to be bad are easily our best. That's something that seems to be universal. We've had people be very panicked when we went to, the one we always reference is we went to Latvia, and which was already like astounding in by its own right. It was awesome and beautiful, but like who knew we'd go to Latvia? We went to Latvia, and we had 400 people show up to a show, which, you know, at that point, I mean, in anywhere for improv, that would be astounding, but certainly that's in like half of Latvia. I mean, right, guys? And like the whole city turned up for this improv show, not because they all knew what it was, but because they didn't. They were all really excited about, like, what is this new art form that's being performed so much everywhere else. And they were such a beautiful audience. It was one of easily the best audiences we've had, because they were just very interested and intrigued, and they weren't fearful of when it wasn't funny. They were okay with dramatic moments, so it allowed us to do weirder things. And the guy that played for us that night played guitar and keys, and I think he might have had a harmonica too. He had like many things, and he was just sort of like, I don't know what I'm doing, you know. And there was a language divide. So we sort of told him what we were hoping for, and that we wanted him to take as much ownership of the show as he could, and that we trusted him, and he was amazing. I mean, it was insane. It was a good example of people, when they get taught too clinically, they start to judge themselves, and when they haven't been taught yet, they may do bolder moves that are successful because they're not in this critical fear state that they're just kind of creating from flow. And he was so good, it was disturbing. I hope you cut that quote down to Latvia is disturbing, and that's all that it is. Well, now you've done it for us. I know. I that too. I'm an improv puppy. Latvia is disturbing. Right, guys? Perfect. It's exactly what we were here to get. Good. I just have to get trapped in a lot of really weird quotes on this. That's the whole premise of our show, really. Good. Get nice people to say awful things. Oh, good. Yes. Good, yeah. Perfect. So you have also done projects with The Onion, and you have a new show on Logo Television. I do.
I love the name.
Good.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I just started doing shooting a show called Gay Skit Happens. You see, I'm holding for laughs.
Sorry, it really does.
Right, guys. I got involved with the Logo Network. They actually sought me out. It was really flattering. It was very. I'm the only Chicago person on the show, and it's an ensemble cast that does sketch material. So it's probably similar to. I was going to say SNL, but it's more similar to like a Portlandia, where there's just like spliced sketches put together in a half-an-hour format. It's on Logo Television. It's shot seasonally, which is an interesting thing for me. It's perfect for me since I live in Chicago. The rest of the cast lives in LA. So I fly in to shoot those shows and then come back here to do regular improv or go to tour around that.
Yeah.
Just like an average week. Just Latvia up. But yeah, that's what it is. I go shoot there and come back and then teach and do shows here and on the road and then go back every season to shoot episodes.
What a blast.
Yeah, it's about as good as it gets for
How long does it take you to shoot a season? How long are you there for?
It's not long at all, believe it or not. I think I was there for 3 or 4 days, and we shot a full episode. But it only runs. One episode comes out per season. So there's a Valentine's Day episode. There's a summer episode. There's a maybe back to school. I'm trying to think of what they're gonna name it, but a fall episode, a holidays episode, and then it'll probably reboot after that.
What a trip! That must be so wild to shoot it and then wait that long to see it.
Yes.
Like, oh yeah.
Exactly. Like something I shot in December will come out in June. I won't know anything about it till then. We'll see.
And in your world tour, you're making a nice little landing pad here in Columbus, which is where I'm talking to everybody from right now.
Hi, Columbus.
I'm so excited for this. Can you talk a little bit about what you've got planned for us and what your connection to Columbus is?
You bet. So I was born in Columbus, Ohio. I've been to, name dropper, Columbus, Ohio. I've been in Chicago for over 15 years, but I love Columbus, and all my family and many, many friends are still there because it's an awesome place to live and grow up. And when I moved to Chicago, there was no improv scene that I knew about at that time. So I went to college and knew that I wanted to do improv and sketch, and I had no way of accessing. I didn't know how to access that in the days of like not so much internet, that kind of thing. I had to like research where to go. So I moved to Chicago, and I always had this sort of dream in the back of my head that I'd come home to Columbus and hopefully help them build a clubhouse of some sort, not knowing whether I would be performing there or not, but certainly trying to establish that for the people there that wanted to do it. And in recent, in the past year, I guess, maybe a little bit over a year, Rance and I have been going home to visit and just feel like it's probably time. That Columbus has a lot of active improvisers and no one dedicated space that serves improvisation specifically. So we're going to open a place. And that place will house many different kinds of comedy. We have you're probably maybe looking at what I'm looking at now, which is this a Columbus Improv Theater page. And it is going to be a dedicated space for probably improv, maybe 4 nights a week, a full training center of 5 levels. We're going to have sketch shows. We're going to have stand-up one night. We're probably going to have a storytelling night, and a number of other things, kind of some more avant-garde punk rock sort of ideas alongside that stuff for later time shows, so that there's a place where everyone can go and kind of put up their own work. And we've been very interested in and diligent to include people that already do improv in Columbus. So we're hoping to have a kind of a hometown celebration night each week where teams that have already been around there for a couple of years will be able to rotate into a schedule and perform as well. So it's not only dedicated to like the teams we make, but the teams that already exist that want to play inside a space and not have to rent. That's a big thing here in Chicago, is that you have to spend your own money to put a show up. So we wanted to make a place that was big enough and well run enough, but still intimate enough to support troops that just wanted to do shows and not have to like take all their cash and pour it into a rental. We'll probably just have house nights where people can play all night and show off their teams and their ideas. So it'll be hopefully a full throttle real thing. It's being funded right now on a crowdfunding site.
Can I show that for you?
Yeah, you bet. You bet. On a crowdfunding site called GoFundMe is what it's on. And if you go to our website, which is this, that's the GoFundMe you're looking at. And if you go to our site, which is CBUS Improv Theater, you'll see a link to a similar thing that'll tell you about the packages you can get. We're looking for corporate sponsors right now. We just got our first 2, we think, and we're at about the 1/3 to halfway point of our fundraising goal. So it's going really well. We only started about not even 3 weeks ago.
And Columbus is super excited. What do you think? Why do you think it's important to have the dedicated space? I know why. I think it is, but I'm interested.
What do you think? I'm curious. I mean, I'll answer, but I want to hear what you.
There's a huge and growing since I got here. I moved here from Chicago in 2008, and there's so much improv here, but there's no one spot where people know to go.
Same.
And any of the spots where improv is happening, there's so much other stuff happening. It's like squeezed in almost, or it's on these odd nights and odd times.
That's right.
So it's sort of dissipated, and what ends up happening is because of that, most of the people coming to see your improv shows are improvisers, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but it's no way to get it out to people who are not yet evangelized.
That's right, evangelized. It's totally right. It's that's very similar, and that tends to be the thing that we see. We feel like since we have touring experience and we're seeing all these cities grow a scene, we have a really good finger on the pulse of what it takes to foster a kind environment and something, being in Chicago, which is like by far the Mecca, like it's insane how much improv is here. You could throw a rock and hit an improv show at any given area of town at all times of day. I think that when we go on the road and we meet people, there's this inclination to want to start an art and make sure that it's cultivated well, but then there's always this weird instinct that people that also do the art that aren't part of your thing are the enemy. Meaning, like, if 2 theaters open at the same time or 3 theaters open at the same time, they tend to hate each other. And I think it's not because they don't like each other's art. I think it's fear of losing an audience,
right?
Or like
finite number of people.
Yeah, there's a finite number of people that like to laugh, which is not true.
Right. Most people hate fun.
They hate fun. You know what? Humans just don't like fun.
Such an elitist name.
Oh, it's so gross.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of what we're trying to cut out that evolution in Chicago. In the 60s and 70s, there was like this massive rift of like, well, you don't like sketch, well, screw you, I'm going to start long form. Well, you don't like long form, well, I'm going to do games, and we all hate each other, and well, I'm going to do something a little more punk rock. Like all these kind of like silos of comedy started, and it was probably important, but it was detrimental to friendships, to moving the art along. And now all those people are friends. There's no theater in town that's like, because they all want to like that description. There's no like real theater that has animosity for another because all the casts are shared. So it would be counterintuitive at this point. Like everyone kind of works everywhere. And I think that you'll see that evolution in every city smaller than Chicago, but it'll take 10 years. So we're trying to make that 10 years not happen. Meaning, like our dear friends on the East Coast that have had this issue of like, we have a long form theater, we have a short form theater. Well, we shouldn't work together. And it's like, oh, that's too bad, because there's certainly different people that would go to both. And we're very much of the school of high tides rise all boats. If we help this thing that we don't necessarily do, if I don't do stand-up anymore, but I'm sure there's lots of stand-up people that would love to have a warm house, so why can't they play here? We don't do comedy sports currently, but we're going to hopefully add a comedy sports inside this basically long-form theater, which to our knowledge has not been done yet, and is interesting and exciting for us on that front as veterans of everything, to say, well, we're going to have 3 nights that are long form, but Saturday's probably going to be comedy sports, and to think that those people will be in the same space together is exciting, because then they'll basically Reese's cup each other. Well, they'll basically be like, hey, you got my peanut butter and your chocolate. It's going to be that thing is going to happen, and we want that to happen much sooner than we've watched our friends struggle through, like your art isn't my art and we don't have enough people. We think that people will probably be, if they see one good improv show, if people see one good improv show, they will go to another good improv show. Mm-hmm. If they see a tough improv show where everyone's angry and hates each other, they probably won't go to another improv show. Right. So we're just trying to cut out that era.
I'm excited too for that place to go for education, because right now most of the people teaching improv have done improv here.
Yeah. That sounds right.
And it would be nice to have a richer environment. I know, I'm a class monkey. I just will go to anybody's class and learn it. I just like it, right? Because it's like a buffet that way. And I think the more you can, I bet you agree, I bet the more schools of improv theory you can get exposed to, like, you can go in Chicago to Annoyance, you can go to Second City, you could go to I.O., and you're going to get very different takes on and comedy sports, and you're going to get different takes, but probably you'll find an ingredient in each, or a vocabulary that works for you.
That's right. I mean, everyone, when it comes down to it, I think people get fearful of trying different kinds of comedy because they think that they can't, like, they think that the notes will conflict, like that the ideals will conflict of each. But really, if you're doing a good scene, it probably translates to any of the schools. It's just that maybe one capitalizes on one methodology more than the other or something, but it all kind of comes down to the same thing, and everyone has something to teach or share. So it's good that this is possible. And you spoke to, I mean, we know a good handful of improvisers there from coming home to teach and help out in the comedy scene there.
Yeah, terrific improvisers.
They're terrific improvisers. And you know what's awesome about that is they're terrific by their own right without necessarily having training, which I think is something to be really applauded, and something that I wish was more prevalent. Not that training doesn't assist you. Everyone should do training because it's cool. It's like the most fun, and you really, like, your brain certainly opens up more. But it's also awesome to see how far you can get just practicing the ideals of presence with your group and seeing what you discover together. So I think we want to make room for all of that, of knowing that there's going to be this 5-level training program that lasts probably a year. So that I know that people can get their fix. You know, like, there's a lot of people that want comedic theory and ideology and figuring out culture of the sport that we're doing and the art that we're doing. But I think there's also room to celebrate what we already know that isn't necessarily quantifiable, and that's why we're excited about Columbus. There's a lot of people that are sustaining, a show a month and doing a fun show a month where their audience loves them, and that's great, and maybe they'll want to put more in their cup. Rance always says a really cool thing that I love, which is when he took martial arts, that he filled up his cup. Like when the teacher said, you probably have a cup full, and I want you to empty that cup and know that you can fill it again with whatever you'd like, but, like, make room in your cup for more. And I think that really translates to this, of, like, we don't want you not to drink your cup, we just want to have more cups of a possibility here, so that if you have a thing that you love doing already, maybe training will make it even better. Maybe you can do something with it and birth something new.
Be able to articulate what you're doing, be able to talk about other people doing it too. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, if nothing else, it's a shared vocabulary with which to talk with other artists, which I think is maybe something that could be lacking. Just guessing, I don't really know for sure, but it's hard to talk about what you do with other improvisers when there's no whatever program or whatever designed for how to speak with one another about it.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo! I'm so excited.
Woo-hoo! Us too. We're so excited. We're going to do it all, man. We're going to do it all.
Latvia style.
You know? That's what it's called. When you do it all, it's called
Latvia style. That's right.
That's what it's called. Well, thanks for being excited about it. It's important to us. I think it's definitely a dream of mine to come home and know that I can help in some way. Because I think my life has been very successful and fun here, and I love it here. So it's nice to think that I've done a lot of the things I wanted to do here, and that there's more, and maybe that's fostering a community. Yeah.
Pollinate.
Yeah, why not, right? Why not?
Well, are there any tech tips or tech apps that you like to use in your jet-setting Latvia tinge life?
I guess the best ways to find me would be Twitter. My Twitter handle is Tara DeFrancisco. That's my name. Heard of it? And same, yeah, thank you. And my website is the same, TaraDeFrancisco.com. You can also learn about our tour at any given point at hearthemusical.com or taraandrants.com. Either of those will lead to our tour dates and the teaching on the road that we do. Mm-hmm. And we often teach at I.O. Chicago when it's regular time right now. And you can donate to the Columbus Improv Theater at cbusimprovtheater.com. We would really appreciate it because we'd like to give them a building. We'd like to do that. We'd like to have a place inside to teach. Yeah. So hopefully, if you go there to donate, awesome. We would love that. And my show, Gay Skit Happens, is on Logo TV. So that's a lot of tech things I just said. But get out there and live your lives. You don't have to follow me and all those things. But if you get super bored and you want to be creepy, those are all the things.
That's good. I often do.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge about improv and all that it can do and as artists, as educators, as teachers, as students. And I unfortunately just missed your show because you just came through St. Louis and I did not know about it.
Oh, we'll be back. We love St. Louis. Like St. Louis, and they know too. I mean, that's not even just a thing I say. We love St. Louis. The Improv Shop has been some of the warmest hosts we've had on the road. And when you get 3 standing ovations in a row, it's hard not to be charmed by the old Improv Shop. It's hard not to be charmed by those son of a guns. So we'll be back. We'll be back, Nick.
Well, great. I can't wait to catch you on your way back through the loo.
Yeah. Be there.
Danielle, how can people find you on the interwebs?
The Twitter, you can find me at Ms. Filas, MSFILAS. I think I'm Instagrammy there too. Same handle. And on Google Plus, you can do that too. Or you can go to my website, edunerdhq.org, and see my waxings and wanings of how to teach things to people. How about you, Big Nick? How do we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at edtech4theater, spelled R-E, and you can also find me on Google Plus to search for Nick Cusumano because I have outweighed the other ones that are out there.
That's right.
And want to say a quick shout out to go to the movie theater and see TheatreCast's guest, Caitlin Maluder, who is in Hail Caesar. I'm trying to find time or a babysitter to go see it.
She also, Caitlin Mulder also got a nod in Style magazine, which was really fun to see.
No big deal.
Yeah, she's amazing. I know her.
And just want to thank you all again for joining us, and we will see you soon.
Bye, everybody.